The human garrison on planet Vora 9 stood like a silver fortress in the middle of endless red dust. It was a quiet base built not for war but for research. The scientists and soldiers there worked side by side, studying the strange plants and creatures that lived among the rocks. The wind howled across the plains, and every night the twin moons cast long shadows across the camp. It was a lonely place far from Earth, and most days passed without excitement. That changed when the patrol returned early one morning with something strange. 3 soldiers rode hoverbikes through the gates, each one dusty and tired. Between them, wrapped in a thermal blanket, was a small creature that shimmered with faint blue light. The moment they entered the medical bay, the air seemed to thicken, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Mira, the lead medic, hurried to the table. She had seen all kinds of injuries before, from mining accidents to alien infections, but never anything like this. The creature was about the size of a dog with dark scales that glowed faintly from within. Its wings were folded close to its body, and a thin line of smoke rose from a wound near its chest. "What happened to it?" Mira asked, glancing at the patrol leader. "We found it near the crater fields," the soldier said. His name tag read Rin. "We thought it was some kind of lizard, maybe one of the local beasts, but then it breathed fire at the drone. A tiny spark, but enough to melt the sensor." Mira froze for a moment. She looked down at the creature, her mind racing. There were old records about dragons, stories from before the Galactic Age, when Earth had first met the ancient Dracon Empire. Dragons had vanished long ago, hunted and destroyed in the wars that ended before humanity spread among the stars. Yet here, before her, was a living one. She pressed her fingers gently to its neck, feeling a heartbeat strong and steady. "It's alive," she whispered. "And it's no ordinary animal." Commander Dalen arrived soon after. He was a tall man with gray at his temples, a soldier who had seen too many quiet years on too many lonely planets. When he saw the creature, his eyes narrowed. "You brought that thing here? You should have called for a scan before bringing it inside." Rin stood straight. "Sir, it was dying. We couldn't leave it in the crater. Its wound looks like it came from a plasma burn." Dalen sighed and rubbed his jaw. "Fine. But if this thing wakes up and burns down my base, you're the one explaining it to command." The soldiers left, and Mira began her work. She cleaned the wound with steady hands, using cooling gel and nanofiber patches to seal the burn. The creature twitched once, but did not wake. Its breathing grew slow and steady. Mira studied the shape of its wings and the faint light pulsing under its scales. Each movement reminded her of a heartbeat, not just a living rhythm, but a deep power hidden inside. For hours she worked alone. The other medics watched from a distance, whispering about what it could be. Some said it was dangerous. Others said it was sacred. Mira said nothing. She only knew that she could not let it die. When the sun of Vora 9 sank behind the mountains, she sat beside the small creature and placed a hand near its head. "You'll be fine," she said softly. "You're safe here." That night the garrison felt uneasy. Some soldiers claimed the lights flickered. Some said the air carried a hum that wasn't there before. One of the engineers swore he heard a faint roar in the wind. Mira stayed in the infirmary all night, watching over her patient. Near midnight, the creature opened its eyes. The color was deep gold, bright and calm. Mira froze but did not move back. The creature looked at her for a long moment, then let out a low sound, almost like a sigh. It shifted its wings weakly and rested its head on the table. "You're safe," Mira said again, keeping her voice gentle. "We'll take care of you." She offered a bowl of nutrient gel, hoping it would drink, but it ignored the food. Instead, it looked at her hands, then at the light above them. Its eyes blinked slowly, as if trying to understand. When the sensors in the infirmary beeped softly, Mira noticed something strange. The energy level in the room was rising. The creature's scales began to glow brighter, and the temperature climbed by a few degrees. Mira turned on the cooling fans, but the air still shimmered faintly. She realized the creature was not just breathing. It was drawing power from the room itself. She quickly checked its vitals. Everything looked normal, yet the glow kept growing stronger. Mira stepped closer, studying the pulse beneath the creature's skin. She could feel a vibration like the echo of thunder. Then just as suddenly the glow faded, and the room grew calm again. When Commander Dalen returned the next morning, he found Mira sitting beside the table with the creature sleeping peacefully beside her. "It's stable," she said, "but it's not ordinary. This could be an alpha dragon." Dalen frowned. "Alpha? As in the leaders of their kind? I thought those were extinct before humanity even reached this system." That's what I thought too, Mira said. But the readings don't lie. This little one carries the same energy signature as the ancient records. It's small now, but it's growing. Dalen looked at the sleeping creature, then at Mira. If it really is an alpha, every scanner in this sector will pick up its signal. We'll have to report this. Not yet, Mira said firmly. If we report now, the higher command will take it away. You know what that means. They'll study it, cut it open, try to control it. This one deserves a chance to live. Dalen hesitated. He was a soldier, but he also trusted Mira. She had saved more lives on this base than anyone. After a long silence, he nodded. All right. Keep it quiet for now. But if anything strange happens, you call me first. Mira smiled faintly. Thank you, Commander. The next few days passed with quiet care. Mira named the hatchling Ember because of the faint firelight that shimmered under her scales. The name seemed to suit her. Ember began to eat small amounts of nutrient paste and respond to voices. When Mira talked, she tilted her head as if listening. Sometimes, when the soldiers came near, she made a soft rumbling sound that seemed to calm everyone around her. The garrison started to change. The soldiers who once laughed at the idea of a dragon now brought small pieces of metal or shiny stones as gifts for Ember. The engineers built a small heating unit beside her bed to keep her warm. Even the commander visited once a day, standing quietly at the door to watch. One evening, Mira walked outside and saw a group of soldiers gathered near the infirmary window. They were sitting on crates watching through the glass as Ember slept. Her glow filled the room like the light of a small campfire. The men and women outside spoke softly, sharing stories from Earth and home. For the first time in months, the base felt alive. But far beyond Vora 9, something else had noticed the light. Across the stars, deep in the void where old sensors rarely reached, an ancient signal stirred. It was faint but familiar, the kind of energy that had not been felt for centuries. A creature far larger than any ship turned its head and opened its eyes. The heartbeat of the Alpha had been found again. Back on Vora 9, Mira finished her nightly notes. Ember slept quietly, wings folded like silver cloth, her chest rising and falling in rhythm with a soft hum. Mira smiled as she dimmed the lights. She could not explain it, but when she sat beside the hatchling, she felt peace. The fear of isolation that had hung over the base for years seemed to fade. Rin entered the room quietly and whispered, "You think it's safe to keep it here?" Mira nodded. "Safer here than anywhere else. She's just a child. And she trusts us?" Rin looked at the small dragon and smiled. "Then I guess she's one of us now." They left the infirmary lights low for the night. Outside, the soldiers on guard duty watched the stars. The twin moons shone over the quiet base. Somewhere in the distance, a low rumble echoed across the plain. The sound was too deep to be the wind, but no one spoke of it. They only felt the strange warmth that spread through the air, as if the whole base had been wrapped in unseen fire. Inside the infirmary, Ember shifted slightly in her sleep. Her wings stretched, and the faint blue light spread across the walls. Mira stirred from her chair and looked up. The sight made her heart tighten with wonder. For the first time in her life, she believed that humanity had not just found another alien creature. They had found a legend reborn. She whispered softly, "Welcome back, little one." And in that moment, though the stars outside remained silent, the bond between human and dragon began, a bond that would soon shake the galaxy itself. Days passed on planet Vora 9, and life inside the human garrison changed in quiet, surprising ways. The desert wind still blew across the red plains, but the base no longer felt as empty as before. Ever since the arrival of the small dragon named Ember, the soldiers had begun to act differently. There was laughter in the halls, and the sound of boots no longer echoed with boredom. Even the usual morning drills seemed lighter, as if the whole base carried new energy. Inside the infirmary, Mira checked her daily notes beside Ember's bed. The dragon hatchling had grown fast. Her wings stretched wider each morning, and the scales along her back glimmered with stronger light. The wound that once burned near her chest had healed completely. Now, when Mira brushed her hand over the smooth scales, Ember lifted her head and made a soft humming sound that filled the room with warmth. Mira smiled. "Good morning, Ember. How are you today?" The little dragon blinked her golden eyes and reached out with her small claw, tapping the edge of the table as if answering. She could not speak, but she understood tone and emotion better than any human child. When Mira spoke kindly, Ember leaned closer. When someone raised their voice, she folded her wings and growled low, a warning not to be cruel. Commander Dalen entered the infirmary carrying a tablet full of reports. His usual serious face softened slightly when he saw the dragon. "Every time I come here, she's bigger. Are we sure she's still a hatchling?" Mira laughed. "She's growing fast, but she still needs care. I think her body is adjusting to our planet's gravity. Look at her wings, they're getting stronger." Dalen watched as Ember stretched them open. The faint blue light from her scales reflected on the walls, giving the room a soft glow. "I hope she doesn't outgrow this base," he said dryly. "We don't have room for a full-size dragon." "Then we'll just build bigger walls," Mira replied with a grin. The commander chuckled and handed her the tablet. "Command still doesn't know about her. I told them we're dealing with a biological sample that needs long-term care. But if she keeps growing like this, we won't be able to hide her much longer." "I know," Mira said, "but for now she's safe here. And the crew seems happier with her around." That was true. The soldiers had started bringing small gifts to the infirmary. Some brought shiny metal scraps from the workshop. Others brought soft blankets or glowing crystals from the mining zone. They said Ember liked light and color, and they were right. The dragon arranged the gifts around her bed almost like a nest, each item placed carefully with her claws. Whenever someone brought something new, she wagged her tail and made a gentle sound that everyone called her purr. Rin, the patrol soldier who had found her, became one of her favorite visitors. He came every afternoon after training. He would sit on the floor beside her talking about Earth, the oceans, and the stars. Ember listened quietly, eyes half closed, her head resting near his knee. Once he told her how he used to fish with his father back home, and how the water would shine at sunset. When he finished, Ember released a faint light from her chest, glowing like sunset water. The soldiers who saw it stood silent, unsure if it was magic or science. One night, during a sandstorm, the power in the base flickered. The winds howled against the metal walls and the temperature dropped sharply. Ember stirred restlessly. She didn't like the cold. Mira rushed to her side, wrapping her in thermal fabric, but the dragon trembled. The generators were failing, and the lights dimmed across the infirmary. Then something amazing happened. Ember opened her mouth slightly, and a small stream of blue fire flowed out, not wild or dangerous, but steady and warm. The fire spread across the room, glowing like gentle light. The air warmed again, and the power sensors slowly stabilized. The next morning, the engineers found that the backup grid had recharged overnight, though no one had touched it. Mira understood what had happened. Ember had given her own energy to help the base. When the commander heard this, he shook his head in disbelief. "You're telling me she powered the base with her flame?" Mira nodded. "Yes, sir." She felt our systems failing and reacted. Her energy field connects with our power grid somehow. Dalen looked at the dragon resting peacefully in her corner. Then she just saved this outpost. News spread quickly among the crew. Everyone began calling Ember their guardian. The soldiers started spending more time near the infirmary, talking, laughing, and even sleeping nearby. Some said they felt safer when they were close to her. Others said the air around her made them dream of home. Mira noticed that Ember seemed happiest when surrounded by people. When the soldiers left for shifts, Ember would look toward the door, eyes sad until someone returned. One evening, Rin suggested something unusual. "Why don't we move the sleeping pods closer to the infirmary? She seems lonely when we're gone." The commander hesitated, but Mira agreed. It might help her stay calm. She's still young and needs company. And so, the garrison made a strange but heartfelt change. The soldiers moved their bunks and sleeping pods from the barracks to the open area near the infirmary. They called it the nest. Every night they laid out their beds under the soft blue light that came from Ember's scales. The dragon would curl up near the glass wall, watching them sleep. Sometimes she would hum softly, and the air filled with a warmth that no heater could create. Days became brighter after that. The soldiers woke up in good spirits. Their food tasted better. Even the desert storms felt less harsh. Scientists began taking notes, wondering if the dragon was releasing some kind of emotional energy that affected human mood. Mira only smiled. She didn't need data to know that Ember's presence had changed them all. But peace never lasted long on the frontier. One afternoon, while the crew worked on the South Tower, the radar officer, Lynn, called for attention. "Commander, we're getting strange readings from the upper atmosphere." Dalen walked to the control deck. "Show me." The screen displayed faint pulses like ripples in space. They moved in a pattern too organized to be natural. The technician frowned. Not meteor activity. It looks like signal interference. Mira, who had come to deliver medical reports, felt a chill. Could it be a response to Ember's energy? Maybe someone detected it. Dalen's face hardened. If someone did, we could have visitors soon. Keep scanning. Don't alert the crew yet. For the next few days, tension quietly returned. The soldiers noticed extra patrols and new guard shifts, but they didn't ask why. Ember, however, sensed something was wrong. She became restless, pacing near the walls, looking toward the sky. When Mira tried to calm her, the dragon lowered her head and made a low rumble that sounded like worry. That night, Mira stayed with her again. "It's all right," she whispered. "You're safe here." Ember looked into her eyes and blinked slowly. Mira felt a strange connection, as if the dragon was trying to send a message. She placed her hand on Ember's forehead, and for a moment she saw flashes in her mind. Shapes, fire, wings, and stars. She pulled her hand back, breathless. The dragon had shared a memory, not with words but through feeling. She saw other dragons flying through a burning sky, hunted by dark ships, and she saw one last heartbeat fade away into silence. Ember had been alone ever since. Mira swallowed hard. "You're the last one," she whispered. "That's why you called out. You were looking for family." The next morning she told the commander what she had seen. Dalen listened in silence, his jaw tight. If she's really the last alpha, others may come looking. Not to rescue her, but to destroy her. Then we have to protect her, Mira said. She trusts us. She saved our lives. We owe her that. Dalen nodded. We'll be ready. Meanwhile, the crew continued their daily lives, unaware of the danger approaching. They played music near the infirmary, cooked meals outside, and told stories under the glow of the dragon's light. Ember watched them with gentle curiosity. When someone laughed, she made a soft chirp as if joining in. When someone sang, she swayed her tail in rhythm. Mira often sat near her in the evenings, writing notes and talking about the stars. You know, on Earth there are stories about dragons. Some say they guarded treasures. Others say they guarded people. Maybe both were true. Ember tilted her head and exhaled a small puff of blue smoke as if agreeing. The wind outside carried the faint sound of thunder. Storm clouds gathered near the horizon, though it was not a weather front. It was something else, something moving across space. The sensors picked it up first, large energy signatures entering orbit. The base lights flickered. The radar alarm sounded once before falling silent. In the control room, Dalen stood over the display. The readings were clear now. Ships were approaching. Not human, not friendly. The energy pattern matched old archives. Dracon technology. He spoke quietly, almost to himself. They heard the call. He turned to Mira, who had rushed in after the alarm.
Get Ember inside the containment field.
If those ships are here for her, we can't let them take her. Mira's heart pounded. She's just a child. Dalen looked out through the window at the sky that was no longer calm. So were we once. But we learned to fight. Outside, the first streaks of fire crossed the clouds. The soldiers ran to their stations. The garrison that had become a family was now a fortress again. And at the center of it all, behind reinforced glass and humming lights, the alpha dragon Hatchling lifted her head. The morning on Vora 9 began with silence that felt too heavy. The red sun rose slowly above the mountains, but the light did not bring peace. The sky had turned a pale gray, and thin trails of smoke drifted high above the base. The soldiers in the garrison moved with quiet urgency. Everyone felt it. Something was coming. Commander Dalen stood in the control room, staring at the radar screen. The signals were clear now, no longer faint or hidden. Several unknown ships were moving through the upper atmosphere. Their patterns were tight and organized, military style. The sensors picked up energy readings that matched no human design. Mira stood beside him, her arms crossed. How many ships? 3 large ones and a cluster of smaller craft, Dalen replied. Their energy signature matches Dracon technology. That means they're here for one reason. Mira swallowed. They're looking for Ember. Dalen nodded slowly. They must have detected her signal. That energy pulse she sent out when she healed probably reached them. They have been hunting alphas for centuries. He turned toward the window where the faint outline of the infirmary could be seen. Behind the reinforced glass, the young dragon rested on her nest of blankets and metal trinkets. Her scales glowed faintly even in daylight. She was calm for now, unaware that danger was already in the sky. We can't fight them head-on, Dalen said. Our weapons are for defense, not for war against a fleet like that. Mira looked determined. We can't hand her over either. She trusts us. Dalen looked back at her. I never said we would. The commander called a meeting. Every squad leader and technician gathered in the command hall. The air was tense, but no one panicked. They had faced storms, shortages, and isolation before. Now they would face something greater. Dalen stood at the front. We have incoming Dracon ships. They will likely land within the next cycle. They are armed and trained for dragon capture operations. We have one mission. Protect Ember at all costs. Rin raised his hand. Sir, do we have any support from Earth Command? None, Dalen replied. If we call for help, the nearest fleet will take weeks to arrive. By then, it will be over. This fight is ours alone. There was silence for a moment. Then Rin said, Then we stand with her. The others nodded. One by one, the soldiers began preparing. They moved fuel cells, set up defense turrets, and reinforced the walls around the infirmary. Engineers rerouted power from the mining reactors to the shield grid. The scientists worked with Mira to set up a containment dome around Ember's room that could absorb energy blasts if needed. When Mira entered the infirmary, Ember lifted her head. The dragon sensed the tension and made a soft sound, almost questioning. Mira walked to her side and placed her hand gently on her neck. There are ships coming, she said quietly. They might try to take you away, but we won't let that happen. Ember blinked, her golden eyes glowing brighter. She leaned closer to Mira, pressing her head gently against her arm. It felt like she understood. Rin came in carrying a set of armor plates. We're placing shield units outside the window. That way, if they attack from the air, the energy will scatter. Mira nodded. Good. She feels what's coming. Rin looked at Ember for a moment. Do you think she can help us? I don't know, Mira said. She's still young, but I think she will try. The next few hours passed in restless preparation. The hum of the generators filled the air. Soldiers ran cables, mounted plasma rifles, and checked the turrets one last time. The sky outside grew darker even though it was still midday. Black clouds spread across the horizon. Lightning flashed, but it was not from weather. It came from the engines of the Dracon ships as they entered the lower atmosphere. The alarm sounded. Incoming contact, shouted Lin from the radar post. They're descending fast. Commander Dalen looked at the screen. They're landing 5 kilometers east of the base. Prepare defensive positions. Stay out of open sight. We don't want them targeting our main power lines. Outside, the ground began to shake as the alien ships landed. The soldiers watched through scopes and binoculars. Dust and smoke filled the air. The ships were shaped like black blades with long wings that folded like claws. Strange symbols glowed along their sides. Hatches opened and tall figures stepped out wearing armor that shimmered with red light. Their movements were smooth and precise, almost mechanical. Rin whispered, Dracons, real ones. I never thought I'd see them in person. Mira stood beside him on the observation deck. Now you have. And they're here for Ember. The Dracons spread out across the plain. Drones lifted into the air, scanning the ground. One of the soldiers reported, They're releasing sensor drones. They'll find us soon. Dalen took a deep breath. Activate the cloaking field. Let's see if we can buy time. The base's defense field shimmered to life. From the outside, it looked like empty desert once more. The energy bent light around the walls, hiding the base from visual scanners. But it wouldn't last long. The Dracons had technology far beyond human stealth systems. Inside the infirmary, Ember stood up for the first time since the alarm began. Her wings unfolded wide, brushing against the walls. The soft glow of her scales grew brighter until the room looked like daylight. Mira watched her in awe. She knows they're near. The dragon looked toward the ceiling and let out a deep, low sound that echoed through the walls. The hum of the generators wavered for a second, almost in harmony with her voice. Outside, every Dracon drone froze for a moment. Their scanners glitched, their red lights flickering. Then the machines turned sharply and began moving toward the base. They found us, Lin shouted. Cloak is breaking. Everyone to defense stations, Dalen ordered. Hold the line. The first wave came fast. Energy bolts streaked through the air, hitting the outer shield. The base shook but held. Turrets fired back, cutting down drones and striking the alien troops. The sky filled with noise and light. Mira stayed inside the infirmary, monitoring the shield level. 60% and dropping, she reported over the comm. Keep it steady, Dalen's voice replied. Reinforcements are setting the second barrier. Rin rushed in with another shield pack. We need to move Ember to the underground bay. Mira shook her head. No, if we move her now, they'll see the energy trail. We keep her here until the upper line breaks. Ember let out another sound, louder this time. Her eyes blazed gold and sparks of blue fire crackled from her mouth. The sensors in the room went wild. Power surged through the circuits, recharging the defense grid faster than before. Mira stared at the readings. She's feeding the shield. The commander heard it over the radio. Then she's part of the fight now. All units, fall back closer to the infirmary. Protect the core. The battle raged through the evening. The Dracons pressed forward, their energy rifles lighting up the desert. The humans fought with every weapon they had. The air was filled with dust, smoke, and heat. Mira could hear the explosions from inside the infirmary. Each one made embers glow stronger. It was as if the dragon drew strength from the will of her protectors. Then, suddenly, the main power grid failed. The lights flickered. The shield dropped to 30%. Commander, Lin shouted, the eastern reactors are down. Before anyone could respond, a massive explosion hit the outer wall. The metal screamed and part of the barrier collapsed. Through the smoke, the Dracons advanced, their armor shining red. They fired again, tearing through the last defense line. Mira held Ember's head gently. Stay calm. We're here. You're not alone. The dragon's body trembled. Blue flames began to rise from her scales. The air grew hot and every nearby light burst with power. The sensors reached critical levels. Mira backed away, shielding her eyes. Outside, the ground shook as a wave of energy exploded from the infirmary. It spread across the base like a storm of light. Every Dracon within range was thrown back. Their weapons shorted out. The ships hovering above the plane flickered, their engines stuttering. Inside the base, Ember roared. It was the sound of an ancient being awakening. Fire and energy swirled around her, forming a bright shield that covered the entire garrison. The soldiers looked up in awe. They could feel the warmth not burning but alive. It filled them with courage. Commander Dalen shouted, "Hold your ground. The shield is ours now." The Dracons regrouped outside the glowing dome, unsure how to proceed. They had come expecting an easy hunt, not resistance from humans and a living alpha. The leader of the invaders raised a communication rod, sending a signal to their ships. The next wave was preparing. Inside the infirmary, Ember collapsed slightly, breathing hard. Her glow dimmed, but she was alive. Mira ran to her side. "You saved us," she said softly. "You really saved us." Ember opened her eyes and made a low sound, almost gentle. She rested her head against Mira's shoulder. The warmth in her body was fading, but her heartbeat stayed strong. Rin entered, covered in dust and smoke. "The Dracons pulled back for now," he said. "They're waiting, probably planning another strike." Dalen's voice came through the comm. "All units regroup and repair. We hold until morning." Mira looked at Ember and then at Rin. "She's growing stronger, but so are they. Next time it won't be a warning." Rin nodded. "Then we'll be ready." Outside, the red sun sank below the horizon. The garrison stood surrounded by glowing sand and broken machines. The air smelled of metal and fire. Above them, the sky pulsed with faint light from the enemy fleet still waiting in orbit. But inside the dome of blue, the sun rose slowly over the red plains of Vora 9. A pale light spread across the desert, revealing the aftermath of the night's struggle. Scorched earth, broken turrets, and scattered debris littered the area surrounding the human garrison. The blue glow of Ember's scales from the infirmary could be seen even through reinforced windows. She had been the heart of the defense, and her power had saved them all. Commander Dalen gathered the leaders of every squad in the command hall. His face was stern but calm. "They'll come again," he said. "The Dracons are waiting for the next opportunity. This time they won't hold back." Rin leaned forward. "Sir, what can we do?" "They have ships, energy weapons, and numbers far beyond ours." Dalen rubbed his jaw. "We fight smarter. We use what we have. Ember is more than a child. She's an alpha. If we defend with her, we have a chance." Mira, standing beside the commander, looked down at her notes and sensors from the infirmary. "She's recovered from last night, stronger than before. Her energy output can shield the entire base if we coordinate with our systems." Dalen nodded. "Then we plan for full integration. Engineers, reroute all power to the shields and turrets. Medics, be ready for injuries. Everyone else, know your position. Ember will be our core. Protect her at all costs." The soldiers and technicians moved quickly, their training and trust in one another evident in every step. They had prepared for emergencies before, but nothing like this. They weren't just defending a base, they were defending the last living alpha dragon. The responsibility was heavy, but their resolve was stronger. Inside the infirmary, Ember sensed the tension. She shifted her weight and spread her wings slowly. The golden eyes met Mira's, filled with understanding and calm determination. Mira ran a hand along Ember's head. "It's time," she whispered. "They're coming for you, and we will not let them win." Outside, the horizon darkened as the Dracon fleet descended. The ships moved silently, almost like predators circling their prey. The largest vessel hovered just above the crater fields, scanning the desert for any sign of life. The smaller craft spread out, deploying drones and scouts. Every movement was precise, controlled, and deadly. Dalen activated the communication lines. "All units, this is the commander. Positions now. Hold the perimeter and protect the infirmary. Ember is with us. She is the shield we never had. Do not falter." The first shots rang out. Energy beams streaked across the desert, striking rocks and sand with sizzling heat. Human turrets fired back, cutting down drones but unable to reach the hovering ships. Dust swirled in the air, reducing visibility. The garrison shook under the force of repeated blasts. Inside the infirmary, Ember's glow intensified. Her scales radiated warmth, filling the room with a light that seemed to hum. Mira watched as her heart rate and energy readings surged. Ember lifted her head and opened her mouth slightly, releasing a controlled wave of blue fire. The beams of energy from outside were absorbed and deflected, the force of the attack meeting the dragon's shield. The humans inside felt the heat but not the danger. "Her shield is holding," Mira reported over the comms. "Turrets are protected. She's stabilizing the field." Rin crouched near the door, keeping a close watch. "She's amazing. I've never seen anything like it." "She's not just defending herself, she's defending all of us." Mira nodded. "Yes, and she knows we trust her. That makes the difference." Outside, the Dracons adjusted their strategy. They split into two groups. One wave attacked the outer defenses, testing the human response. The other focused directly on the infirmary, the source of Ember's power. Energy beams struck the reinforced walls, creating sparks and small cracks. Soldiers fired from cover, aiming for the drones and scouts. Each strike was precise, but the enemy pressed forward. Suddenly, the main power grid flickered. Some turrets shut down, leaving gaps in the defense. Alarm lights blinked across the base. Mira's voice came through the intercom. "The shield is weakening. Ember is compensating, but she can only hold for so long." Dalen clenched his fists. "All units maintain positions. Do not let them breach the perimeter. The infirmary must remain safe." Ember sensed the weakening. Her roar shook the walls of the infirmary, a deep resonant sound that echoed across the desert. Sparks of blue fire danced along her scales. She exhaled again, and the energy surged outward, reinforcing the shields just as another wave of energy beams struck. The ground quaked under the force. Rin watched from the observation post. "She's incredible. Look at the way she synchronizes with the shield. She's alive and she's thinking with us." Mira's hands moved quickly over the monitoring panels. The feedback loop is working. She's stabilizing the field in real time. "We just need to keep the turrets firing and the perimeter intact." The battle raged for hours. The Dracons were relentless. They deployed heavier drones and tried to breach the walls with energy cannons. The humans responded with careful precision, coordinating every shot with Ember's protective energy. Each time the dragon roared, the air seemed to vibrate and the soldiers felt a surge of courage. Finally, a massive blast struck near the infirmary, shaking the entire room. Ember's wings spread wide as she absorbed the impact. The glass panels rattled and Mira braced herself. Sparks flew and the air shimmered with intense heat. Ember glowed brighter than ever before. "Commander, the enemy is regrouping for another strike," Lynn reported from the radar post. "They're concentrating on the infirmary. This could break the shield." Dalen's voice was steady. "Then we give them everything we have. All turrets, all firepower, all energy reserves. Hold the line." The soldiers obeyed without hesitation. Engineers rerouted every available power source to the turrets. Medics prepared for injuries. Technicians worked at the shield interfaces, guided by Mira's monitoring of Ember's energy. Ember's glow reached a blinding intensity. She lifted into the air slightly, her small wings flaring. Her roar was like thunder echoing across the desert. The energy field around her expanded, stretching over the base like a living dome. Every incoming attack hit the shield and scattered. The Dracons faltered, their machines flickering under the dragon's power. Rin and Mira exchanged a glance. "She's doing it," Mira whispered. "She's defending everyone." The Dracon leader, seeing the failure of his assault, signaled retreat. The smaller crafts pulled back and the larger vessel hovered at a safe distance. The desert fell silent except for the hum of Ember's energy field and the occasional alarm from the base. The soldiers emerged from cover, cheering and patting each other on the back. "We did it," one shouted. "She did it." Mira stepped toward Ember, who had settled back onto her nest. She placed her hand on the dragon's glowing head. "You were amazing, Ember. You saved us all." Ember blinked slowly, and a soft warmth radiated from her scales. She lowered her head to Mira's shoulder, resting there with trust and calm. The Garrison felt the relief wash over them. They were battered but victorious. The Alpha Dragon Hatchling had proven she was not just a child, but a force beyond imagination. Commander Dalen walked among the soldiers, inspecting the defenses and the aftermath. "This was only the first wave," he said. "They'll come again if they can, but today we held them off, and we owe our survival to her." Rin knelt beside Ember, brushing a hand along her glowing back. "I never imagined I'd fight alongside a dragon, and now I can't imagine a life without her here." The soldiers began clearing debris and repairing the outer walls. Engineers worked tirelessly, aided by technicians, while medics treated minor injuries. The desert was calm again, but everyone knew the quiet was temporary. Mira sat in the infirmary, recording Ember's energy readings. "She's stronger than any records suggest," she said. "Her connection to us, to the base, it's like she senses everything and protects it automatically. She's incredible." Ember responded with a small exhale of blue flame that filled the room with warmth. She closed her eyes, resting but alert. The bond between the humans and the dragon had grown stronger during the battle. They had fought together, protected one another, and survived. That night, the soldiers returned to their sleeping pods outside the infirmary. They huddled near the glowing dome of Ember's energy, feeling the warmth and protection she provided. The Garrison had learned that they were stronger together, and the Alpha Dragon had become the heart of that strength. Mira stayed beside Ember, recording every heartbeat and pulse of energy. She whispered softly, "You did it. You kept us safe, and we'll keep you safe too." Outside, the stars shone over the desert plains. The twin moons reflected the light of Ember's glow. The battle was over for now, but the humans of Vora 9 knew that the war to protect the last Alpha Dragon was only beginning. They were ready, and Ember, the hatchling who had saved them all, had already proven she was ready too. The bond between humans and dragon had been forged in fire and courage. From this night onward, nothing would ever be the same. The night on Vora 9 was calm but tense. The Garrison had survived the first attack, but the presence of the Dracon fleet in orbit remained a constant threat. Ember, the Alpha Dragon hatchling, lay in the infirmary, her glowing scales dimmed from the exhaustion of the battle. Mira sat beside her, holding her claw gently, listening to the steady pulse of her heartbeat. The warmth radiating from Ember filled the room like sunlight. Outside, soldiers patrolled the perimeter, but many now stayed closer to the infirmary. Over the past few days, they had moved their sleeping pods near the dragon's protective field. No one wanted to be far from her. The blue glow of Ember's scales created a comfort they had never felt before on the remote planet. Rin, tired but alert, watched from a nearby observation post. "She's amazing," he said quietly. "I can't believe how much she's grown. Last night she was a shield. Today she's our heart," Mira smiled. "And she trusts us. That bond is stronger than any weapon we have." Commander Dalen joined them, scanning the horizon through binoculars. The Dracon fleet was still in orbit, but no ships had descended. "They're regrouping," he said. "They're cautious now." Ember made them think twice, Rin nodded. They underestimated her. They thought she was just a hatchling. "Not just a hatchling," Mira said firmly. "The last Alpha. She's more powerful than any of us imagined." The morning sun rose, casting pale red light across the desert. Repairs on the base continued. Engineers and technicians worked tirelessly, reinforcing walls and testing the shield generators. Soldiers trained, practicing defensive formations, all while keeping a watchful eye on the horizon. Everyone was aware that the Dracons could strike again at any moment. Despite the danger, life inside the Garrison began to feel different. The soldiers laughed more, shared stories of Earth, and even sang songs under Ember's glowing presence. The dragon had become a symbol of hope and courage. Mira noticed that Ember seemed happier when surrounded by humans. She would chirp softly, exhale faint blue fire that danced like tiny sparks, and sometimes nuzzle the hands of anyone near her. One afternoon, while Mira checked Ember's vitals, the dragon shifted her wings and looked toward the sky. Her golden eyes glowed brighter than usual. Mira felt a ripple of energy through the room, and she realized Ember was sensing something distant. "Commander," Mira said over the comm, "I think she's detecting something. Not close, but powerful. Something, or someone approaching." Dalen's jaw tightened. "Scan the horizon. All units ready. If another attack comes, we need to be prepared." The sensors picked up a faint signal moving through space toward Vora 9. It was not the Dracon fleet. It was something different, something large and alive. Ember stiffened, her wings folding close to her body, and she let out a low, resonant hum that shook the floor. Mira's heart raced. She recognizes it. Whatever this is, it's not hostile to her. The soldiers outside noticed the change as well. Some approached the infirmary cautiously, sensing the shift in energy. The air around Ember began to shimmer, and a faint warmth spread beyond the infirmary walls. Even the desert winds seemed to slow, as if listening. Minutes later, a massive shadow appeared in the sky. It was a dragon, larger than any creature the humans had ever seen. Its scales shimmered with gold and silver, and its wings spread wide like a living storm. The dragon landed gently outside the garrison, sending small clouds of dust into the air. Its presence was both magnificent and commanding. Ember lifted her head. The two dragons locked eyes. The larger dragon let out a low roar, and Ember responded, her voice stronger than ever. Mira and the others felt the vibrations of their voices in their chests. It was a communication deeper than words, a language of energy and presence. Rin whispered, "She's not alone. That's one of her kind." Mira nodded, eyes wide, "And she trusts us enough to show it." Commander Dalen stepped forward cautiously, keeping a hand near his weapon but making no sudden moves. The larger dragon looked at him, then at the humans standing outside. There was no aggression in its gaze. Instead, it tilted its head, observing the humans as if judging their worthiness. Ember moved forward, leaving the infirmary and stepping close to the larger dragon. She pressed her nose against its chest, and the larger dragon responded by exhaling a soft stream of golden light. The energy radiated warmth across the garrison. Mira felt tears form in her eyes. Ember had found family. The larger dragon turned slowly, scanning the humans. Then, in a gesture that seemed both deliberate and ceremonial, it lowered its head slightly and exhaled a controlled wave of energy over the entire garrison. It was not destructive. Instead, it was a blessing, a mark of protection. The soldiers felt an unshakable calm wash over them. Dalen stepped forward, speaking quietly to Mira. "It recognizes us as allies." "Yes," Mira said, still awed. "Ember brought them here. She trusts us and they trust her. That means they trust us too." The large dragon nudged Ember gently, and the hatchling chirped happily, releasing a faint trail of blue sparks that danced in the air. The two dragons moved together, circling the infirmary in a protective dance. The energy field around Ember expanded further, blending with the power of the larger dragon. The humans realized that the garrison was now shielded by two dragons, one small but powerful, and one ancient and majestic. The Dracon fleet, still in orbit, detected the combined energy. Their scanners registered the dragon's presence, and their ships faltered in hesitation. The humans and dragons had formed a bond that could not be broken by weapons or technology. The enemy had learned a lesson that humans had discovered long ago. Unity, trust, and courage could overcome even the greatest threats. Mira stood beside Ember, feeling the energy pulse through her body. "You've given us more than protection," she whispered. "You've given us hope," Rin laughed quietly. "I never thought I'd live to see the day humans and dragons fought side by side, and won without even firing a single shot." The larger dragon let out a final, low roar, and Ember responded in kind. The sound echoed across the plains, a proclamation to the world that a new alliance had been formed. Commander Dalen surveyed the scene. The garrison had survived the battle. The dragons had claimed their trust, and the humans had proven themselves worthy allies. In the days that followed, the base returned to a new normal. Repairs were made, the desert winds blew less harshly, and the soldiers continued their routines, but always near Ember and the larger dragon. The sleeping pods remained outside the infirmary, under the warm glow of the dragon's scales. Mira continued her research, documenting Ember's growth and the unique bond between humans and dragons. She realized that this was more than science. It was history in the making. Humanity had found an ancient species thought extinct, and the dragons had chosen to trust them. Rin often sat with Mira and Ember, sharing stories and songs from Earth. Ember would listen attentively, her golden eyes reflecting every word while the larger dragon rested nearby. The dragons had become both guardians and companions. Their presence made the garrison stronger, happier, and more united than ever. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the red plains, Mira looked around at the garrison. Soldiers laughed and talked around small fires. The engineers and scientists worked quietly, but with a sense of purpose. Ember and the larger dragon glowed softly in the infirmary, their wings stretching over the sleeping humans like protective shields. Commander Dalen approached Mira. "This is more than a victory," he said. "It's a new beginning. Humans and dragons together. No one could have imagined it," Mira nodded. "We didn't just survive. We became family." Ember lifted her head and exhaled a soft, warm flame. The air shimmered, reflecting off the walls of the infirmary. Mira felt the warmth fill her soul. She reached out and touched Ember's scales, whispering softly, "Thank you for trusting us." The hatchling purred, a sound that resonated with power and affection. The larger dragon lowered its head, touching Ember gently with its nose. Mira realized that the bond they had formed would last for generations. From that day forward, the humans of Vora 9 no longer saw dragons as distant legends or dangerous creatures. They were protectors, companions, and friends. Ember had chosen humanity, and humanity had chosen her in return. The garrison became a symbol of unity, a place where courage, trust, and love had forged an unbreakable alliance. Above the desert, the stars shone bright, reflecting the promise of a future where humans and dragons would stand together. The Dracon fleet remained a distant threat, but it had learned that the bond between species could not be broken by fear or force. The alpha dragon hatchling and her companion had changed everything. Mira watched Ember curl up on her nest, the larger dragon resting beside her. Soldiers slept nearby, wrapped in warmth and safety. The desert was quiet, peaceful, and alive with possibility. And in that moment, Mira knew the truth. Humanity had not just survived on Vora 9. Humanity had earned the trust of legends. The last alpha dragon had returned, and the garrison would never be alone again. Together, humans and dragons had begun a new chapter, one written in fire, courage, and hope. The story of Ember and the garrison would be remembered for generations, not just as a tale of survival, but as a testament to what humanity could achieve when it chose care over fear, trust over doubt, and unity over division.